cold, sudden, and impossible to ignore. Snow drove sideways across the ridge, spitting at my boots as if the world itself were angry I dared walk through it. I thought I could make it to the cabin before night swallowed the trail. I thought I could bury the rumor, the shame, the little life tucked too close to my ribs like a secret heart. I was wrong. My name is Mara Gray. I carry a past that wakes me at impossible hours and a secret that will not be quiet. 2 months in, and already the town whispers when I pass the bakery. 2 winters ago, I would have laughed and turned the rumor into a joke. Now, every sideways glance is a weight. I left everything because staying meant dying a little more each day. The backstabbing husband, the elders who turned their backs, the pack that preferred obedience to compassion. I left because the baby is mine, and their rules would take it from me. The cabin looked abandoned from the road. Smoke-streaked wood, one shutter hanging like a tired arm. It belonged to an old woman everyone called Mrs. Corbett until she disappeared the winter before last. I shouldn't have expected warmth. I should have expected more silence. Fate, as it turns out, enjoys irony. Something moved at the edge of the trizer shape that was not human and not entirely animal. I froze. The stories I'd been running from crowded my mind, legends younger than the mountains about wolves with eyes like coin and teeth like oathbreakers. I kept my hands where I could see them, slowed my breath, and reached for the gun hidden beneath my coat because old habits cling when new fears are worse. A low sound split the wind, no howl, and not a growl, something in between that made the skin along my arms climb. The shape stepped forward. Larger than any wolf I'd seen, coat black as river water at midnight, and then the world tilted because its eyes found mine. They were not the yellow of feral dogs. They were a slow, strange silver, like moonlight pooled in a basin. For a moment one passport of Kamai could have believed it was just an animal. It cocked its head, intelligent and tired, and then it shifted. I say shifted because there is no other word for it. The wolf shrank, ripples of muscle folding under fur, long limbs bending, and then impossibly a man stood where the animal had been. He was taller than the stories suggested, broad as a barn door and twice as stern. Snow clung to his black hair. He smelled like pine sap and winter storms and something raw and old that made every hair on my arms wake like a burglar. No, I said, before I could stop myself, the word torn out of me like a rusted nail. No, this can't be. He smiled, but it didn't touch his eyes. Tell me something I don't already know, he said. His voice was the sound of the forest, deep, distant, and somehow intimate. He spoke my name before I gave it. Mara Gray. How did he know? I had not lived in this town long enough for anyone to learn me. I held my breath until my chest ached. Who are you? Who I am matters less than why you are here, he said. He studied my belly with a look that was careful but not prying. You shouldn't be walking this pass in a storm. The truth raw, stubborn, and now impossibly visible spilled out before I could shape it. I had to get away, I said. The gun felt ridiculous now, a child's defense against fate. They would have taken him. They would have. His face changed then, a crack in something iron. For the first time I saw the wounds beneath the armor. A line of old grief at the corner of his mouth, the small softening at his throat that told me he had loved and lost. They would have taken him, he echoed. Or they would have taken you. The wind pushed the world into us, and the storm framed the moment like theatre. He stepped closer, though his face never left mine, and the wolf in him pressed along the edges of his movements, alert, territorial, impossible to placate. Why help me? I asked. Why not run me off? Why not hand me over? His laugh was like the snapping of twigs, quick, sharp. Because sometimes the law of the pack is cruel, because sometimes there are debts only blood can settle. His eyes flicked toward the trees, and when they returned, they carried something like hunger and something like pity. Because you are the only soft thing I've seen in a long time. The world offered no small comforts. The wind took my breath and my bravado in the same gust. I swallowed down the urge to ask the impossible questions about the wolf, the transformation, the silver eyes, and instead ask the one thing that mattered most. What do I do? My voice sounded small, ridiculous in that wide, wild place. I can't go back. I can't. He cut me off with a gesture so slight it was almost polite. You rest here, he said. You sleep. You eat. You decide in the morning. Who are you? I asked again, because names are anchors in a life unmoored. He gave me a name that landed like a stone. Call me Kellen. It was not an introduction. It felt like a warning. And marry, if you put your trust in me, know what you're asking. I am not a man who keeps bargains lightly. Bargains? The word opened like a wound. I looked at my hands and saw the faint lines of old promises I'd made and broken. I sold my unborn baby to the Lycan King to save my pack. The words left my mouth like something I had rehearsed in a mirror and then forgot to hide. They landed between us, heavy and absurd, and for a beat the world was too loud. Snowflakes hung like punctuation. Kellen's jaw tightened. For a breath he was the wolf, again predatory, inscrutable, and then he was a man, one with 1,000 stories buried in his chest. You will regret bargains made in fear, he said softly. But you will regret silence more. Then help me save him, I whispered, thinking of a child I had not yet met but already loved enough to betray myself. Help me keep him safe. I will do anything. The way he looked at me in that moment told me something crucial. He understood sacrifice. He understood the calculus of desperate people who barter futures like coins. It wasn't pity that softened his face, it was recognition. Anything? He asked. The storm asked it back. The forest listened. And somewhere under the snow, something older than promises shifted in agreement. I wanted to run back the way I came, to tear up the bargain like paper and pretend the cold had not burned holes through my courage. But the truth is, bargains haunt you whether you keep them or tear them up. They follow you like a bloodhound. Kellen reached out, palm open and enormous, a rough touch that steadied me without words. Sleep, Mara, he said. Tonight, you will not be alone. As the last of my defiance thawed with the touch of his hand, the wolf in the trees gave a long, soft sound that could have been a question or a promise. The storm wrapped us like a shroud, and I let myself be led into the ruined cabin where the shadows kept secrets and the hearth promised warmth. Outside, the snow continued to fall, each flake a small, stubborn miracle. I had sold a future I could not yet name to save the ghosts of the past. I had surrendered my quiet to a stranger with silver eyes. If fate were a currency, I had spent the last of mine and in the margins of that reckless trade, a shape move that would not be denied. This was the beginning of the debt that would either destroy me or make me whole. I did not yet know which. Chapter 2. The stranger in the cabin. I woke to the sound of logs cracking in the hearth, sharp little pops that reminded me of knuckles cracking before a fight. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. My cheek lay against a wool blanket that smelled faintly of cedar and something darker, a scent like earth after lightning. The storm outside had softened to a low, thoughtful wind, and morning light licked the edges of the boarded window. Then memory returned in a rush. The forest, the wolf, the impossible way his bones had folded into a man. Kellen. I pushed myself upright, heart thudding as I scanned the room. The cabin was small, only one room and a pantry, but not as abandoned as it had first looked. Someone obviously had restored parts of it. A thick fur rug lay near the fire. A metal kettle steamed gently on the stove. Tools hung on nails like old soldiers. But there was no sign of Kellen. I tugged the blanket closer around my shoulders. My skin prickled with unease. Had I imagined last night? Had grief and fear finally pushed me over some unsteady edge? The door creaked. I froze, breath slicing short in my chest. Kellen stepped inside, brushing snow from his shoulders. He wasn't wearing a coat, only a thin dark shirt that clung to his frame in a way that made my pulse flutter despite my better judgment. His hair was damp, darkened to ink, and his silver eyes flicked to me with an expression too complex to name wariness, curiosity. Something else I didn't dare interpret. "You're awake," he said. His voice filled the cabin the way heat filled a room quiet but consuming. I didn't know if you'd left." My voice cracked, embarrassingly fragile. "If I meant to leave you," he replied, stripping off his gloves, "I wouldn't have brought firewood." He dropped the gloves on a stool and moved toward the stove. Even his smallest movements felt deliberate, as if the air arranged itself around him rather than the other way around. "You were out in the storm again?" I asked. "Scouting." His gaze shifted toward the window. "Your arrival didn't go unnoticed." A cold thread wound down my spine. "By what? By whom?" he corrected softly. Silence widened between us like a doorway I wasn't ready to step through. He poured hot water into a chipped mug and set it on the table in front of me. "Drink. The baby needs warmth." The tenderness in his tone shocked me. Not soft, not pitying, just aware. Responsible, almost. I hesitated before lifting the mug. My fingers nearly brushed his. The space between our hands pulsed with a strange humming tension, as though the air itself recognized something we didn't. "Thank you," I murmured. He inclined his head, but didn't sit. He simply watched me, arms crossed, a quiet sentinel carved of moonlit stone. The warmth of the drink steadied my breath, but questions churned in me like restless birds. "What are you?" I asked finally, voice low. "Last night what I saw you saw truth." He didn't flinch. A truth most humans aren't meant to witness. But I'm not. I stopped myself. My past pack wasn't something I shared lightly. Kellen must have read the hesitation. "You come from wolf blood," he said. Not a question. A statement uttered like he'd known me far longer than a single night. My fingers tightened around the mug. "Half-blood," I admitted reluctantly. "My father was human. My mother wasn't." He nodded once. "That explains why you saw me and didn't faint." "I almost did," I muttered. A flicker was that amusement. Touched his mouth. It vanished quickly. The cabin creaked as the wind pressed against it. Kellen's gaze sharpened. "You asked last night for help," he said. "Help keeping your child safe." I swallowed hard. "Yes. Then you need to tell me everything." "No." The word came out louder than I intended. His brows lifted. "Kellen, I can't if I speak it aloud. It becomes real again." "It is already real," he said, stepping closer. "Running doesn't unmake the danger." I hated how right he was. I also hated how much I wanted to trust him. "It was supposed to be a legend," I whispered. "A story to scare young wolves. A bargain no one ever truly made." Kellen didn't blink. "But you made it." "Yes," I breathed. The shame tasted metallic. My pack was dying. Starving. Cursed. The elders said there was only one way to save them. "And you believe them?" he asked. I wanted to believe anything. I wanted to save them. My throat tightened painfully. So I agreed. I would give the Lycan King my firstborn, and in return he would break the famine curse. I hadn't meant to say it all at once, but the words had been living under my skin for so long they slipped out before I could bite them back. Silence fell heavy, dark, expectant. Kellen's jaw tensed. "Foolish," he said quietly. desperate, but foolish. I know. My eyes burned. But then I found out I was pregnant, and everything changed. I couldn't give him my child. I couldn't. A sudden thud outside froze us both. Kellen's head snapped toward the door, nostrils flaring. The wolf in him rose like a shadow stretching across the room. "Stay behind me," he ordered. Before I could respond, he moved graceful, lethal, silent. He crossed the cabin in 3 strides, hand hovering near the door as though he didn't need weapons. His body was weapon enough. The thud came again. "Kellen?" My whisper shook. "Not Pack," he murmured. Something smaller. A beat. And hungry. He threw open the door. Wind burst inside, carrying snow and a flash of grey fur. A wolf pup tumbled in, skidding across the floor. It was limping, ribs sharp beneath patchy fur. It whimpered once before collapsing. My breath hitched. Oh no. Kellen didn't move to help it. Instead, he studied it with a look so cold it made my skin prickle. "It's a scout." "A pup?" I gasped. He nodded grimly. "Sent to track your scent." My stomach flipped. "He's dying." "He's a warning," Kellen said. "The Lycan King scent is on him." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Then he knows." "He knows," Kellen confirmed. "And he's coming." The cabin suddenly felt too small, too fragile, too temporary. Kellen finally turned to me, silver eyes bright with something I hadn't seen before, determination sharpened by fear. "We don't have long," he said. "If you want your child to live, you stay with me. Do you understand?" I should have questioned him. I should have demanded proof, explanations, reassurance. Instead, I found myself nodding slowly, helplessly, instinctively. "Yes," I whispered. "I'll stay." Something shifted in his expression, then something subtle, dangerous, promising. Outside, the wind howled like a creature warning us both. Inside, for the first time since fleeing my pack, I felt something unfamiliar. Not safety, but possibility. And Kellen felt it too. The storm had ended. The hunt had just begun. Chapter 3. The wolf who watches the dying pup lay curled against the hearth, breaths coming in shallow, trembling bursts. I knelt beside it, placing a gentle hand on its side. The fur was coarse with cold and fear. Its tiny heartbeat fluttered like a trapped moth. "He's only a baby," I whispered. Kellen stood behind me, arms folded, posture rigid as stone. "A baby can still be loyal to a king. You make him sound dangerous." "He could be," he said, "if he lives long enough." The sharpness in his tone made me look up. Weak morning light carved angles across his face, emphasizing the tension there, his jaw taut, shoulders tight, eyes unnervingly still. That stillness was what frightened me most. It meant he was calculating. Preparing. "Then we help him," I said. Kellen's expression didn't soften. "Why?" "Because he's alive," I said simply. "Because someone has to show mercy when kings do not." A long silence stretched, broken only by the fire. Then Kellen exhaled, low and unwilling. He crouched beside me, his presence radiating heat like the hearth itself. He lay his hand upon the pup's back. The wolfling whimpered, but didn't pull away. "He won't understand mercy," Kellen murmured. "He's been taught only obedience. Then he'll learn something new." Kellen's eyes flicked to minor silver, sharp, strangely vulnerable for a fraction of a second. "You speak as though you weren't raised by a pack." I looked down at the pup. Maybe that's why I'm different. His gaze lingered, and I felt it travel across my features as though memorizing them. It was too intimate. Too revealing. I swallowed and tore my attention back to the small creature. "We need water," I said. "Bandages. Meat. There's dried venison in the pantry." Kellen rose to grab it. While he moved, I studied the pup. His eyes opened briefly pale and cloudy with pain. But there was a flicker there. Recognition? Fear? A memory of the scent he had been ordered to follow. My scent. My unborn child's. Guilt twisted deep in my stomach. Kellen returned with a strip of venison and handed it to me wordlessly. When our fingers brushed, a spark warm, startling jumped between us. I tried to ignore it, but he must have felt it too. His breath paused mid-inhale. "Feed him," he said softly. Slowly. I held the meat near the pup's nose. He sniffed weakly, then licked it with a small sandpaper tongue. Relief loosened something in my chest. "He wants to live," I murmured. "All creatures do," Kellen said. "The difference is what they're willing to kill for it." When I looked at him again, his eyes were on me, not the pup, not the door, not the forest outside. Me. "Last night," he said quietly, "when you spoke of the bargain, you said you'd give anything to save your child." My throat clenched. "I meant it." "And would you give the boy?" he asked. "What?" My breath hitched, a sting of panic rushing through me. "The pup," Kellen clarified. "Would you trade his life for your child's safety if forced?" There it was, the test. The thing he'd been measuring in me since we met. I looked at the little wolf, ribs rising with shallow breaths, blood matted near his flank. A child sent into the storm with orders he probably didn't understand. "No," I said. "I wouldn't sacrifice one child for another." Kellen's jaw eased. The slightest nod. Approval reluctant, but present. "You're not what I expected," he admitted. "What did you expect? Someone who survives by obedience, not by compassion." I laughed softly, bitterly. My compassion is what ruined everything. Kellen sat across from me, elbows on his knees. "Tell me." The fire crackled. Snow slid from the roof in a lazy thud. "I was supposed to marry a pack warrior," I began. "A man chosen by the elders. Strong, loyal, but not gentle." My fingers tightened in the wolf pup's fur. "When the famine came, we lost so many. And when the elders found a prophecy that spoke of a blood price to appease the Lycan King, my fiancée volunteered me." Kellen's growl was so soft, I wasn't sure I heard it. "They said the king wouldn't take the child right away," I continued. "He'd come after the birth, after the pack was restored. And you agreed." Kellen's eyes burned. "I thought the child would be years away, that I'd have time to find another way, or die trying." He leaned forward. "But fate moved faster." "Yes." I placed a hand protectively over my belly. "Much faster." Kellen stared at my touch, and something unreadable flickered behind his anger, sorrow, recognition, hunger. It was all there, layered like old scars. "You should have run sooner," he whispered. "I didn't know I needed to. You do now." Before either of us could speak again, the pup stirred, lifting his head, sniffing the air, gaze fixed on Kellen. He gave a tiny, fearful whine. Kellen didn't move. He knows what I am. "A wolf?" I asked. "No." Kellen stood slowly, shadows stretching tall behind him. "A rival." I blinked. "Rival? To whom?" "To the king." The room seemed to shrink around us. "What are you saying?" I whispered. Kellen turned toward the window, where sunlight struggled through snow clouds. His voice, when he spoke, was low and carved with old wounds. "I was born under a red moon, marked by the same bloodline that crowns the Lycan King. I was once heir to his throne. My heart slammed against my ribs. "Eh?" I breathed. Kellen looked at me over his shoulder, eyes glinting with something fierce and broken. Until the night he decided only one of us deserved the title. A chill deeper than winter spread through me. "Your brother?" "Yes." His gaze hardened. "The king you made your bargain with is my brother." Silence detonated between us. My pulse fluttered. The cabin felt too small to hold the weight of this truth. "Kellen." The name came out like a warning, like a plea. I didn't know which. "He will come for you," Kellen said. "And when he does, he will not come alone." My breath trembled. "Then, what do we do?" Kellen approached, stopping close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off him. His presence towered powerful and dark, but his voice was soft, almost gentle. "We prepare," he said. "We train. We hide. We run if we must. But know this." He lifted my chin with a single finger, forcing my gaze to meet his. "While you are under my protection, no king touches you. No pack claims you. No bargain binds you." My pulse raced. Something warm coiled low in my chest. "Why?" I whispered. "Why help me at all?" His thumb brushed my jaw, a touch so fleeting I almost doubted it happened. "Because," he murmured, "you have a strength the king fears." "What strength?" He held my gaze as if seeing far deeper than anyone ever had. "The strength to choose love over power." Heat flooded my cheeks. I looked away too fast, heart pounding. Kellen stepped back. "Rest while you can," he said. "Tonight, we talk about leaving this mountain." The pup whimpered. The fire crackled. And the man who was once heir to a throne watched me with an intensity that felt like both protection and prophecy. The king was coming. And fate, it seemed, had chosen sides. Chapter 4. Shadows on the mountain. The storm cleared by afternoon, leaving the world glazed in ice and silence. The forest glittered as if made of glass, every branch bending under the weight of winter. I stood at the doorway of the cabin, staring at the endless stretch of trees and sky. It should have been beautiful. It wasn't. Not with the knowledge that a king could be moving through those same woods, hunting us like shadows. Kellen had been pacing for an hour, silent, controlled movements that betrayed a mind preparing for war. He paused occasionally to check the pup, who was sleeping deeper now, breath steadier. Each time, some faint softness crossed his expression, as if the small creature reminded him of something long lost. I leaned against the doorframe. "You're quiet." "Thinking," he said. "That's what worries me." He halted, turning toward me fully. Even in the muted light, his silver eyes cut sharp. "You should be worried. The king doesn't send scouts unless he intends to follow." My breath clouded the air. "How long do we have?" "A day. Maybe less." He said it so simply, as if the ticking clock didn't rattle the bones of my future. Kellen approached, stopping close enough that I could feel his warmth. "Mara, listen. Once we leave this cabin, your life changes forever. No more pack. No old alliances. No returning to what you knew." A knot formed in my throat. I already lost those things. His gaze softened barely, but enough to make something inside me loosen. "That's not what I meant," he said. "Then what did you mean?" He hesitated. For a man who moved with certainty, that hesitation was startling. "You'll be under my protection," he murmured. "Which means you'll be part of my path, my fate, my enemies, and your brother," I whispered. A shadow crossed his face at the word. "Yes, him most of all." The cabin creaked as wind pushed through the pines. The silence around us felt charged, tense, uncertain, strangely intimate. Finally, he turned toward the table, unrolling a worn leather map. Come. I need to show you something. I moved beside him, the map spreading across the wood like a tapestry of secrets. Inked terrain, mountain ridges, symbols arranged in old language. What is this? I asked. Our world, Kellen said. Mine. And now yours. He traced a line along the ridge we were on. We're here. The king's territory lies to the east. If he approaches, he'll track through the river gorge. Fastest route. Then we avoid it, I said. That's the problem. He tapped a section of the map marked with jagged slashes. This is the Deadwood, impassable in winter. The west is cliffs. South is human settlement sand, you're too exposed there. Which leaves the north, I finished. Yes. His jaw tightened. The north is wild. Untamed. Even Lycans fear it. But it's where I've hidden before. I swallowed. Where you hid after your brother took the throne. After he tried to kill me for it, Kellen corrected, voice low enough to raise goosebumps. For years, I hid in that wilderness. It's unforgiving. But survivable if you know how. His eyes lifted to mine, and something heavy passed through his gaze. But it's no place for the fragile. The word stung more than it should have. I'm not fragile, I snapped. You're pregnant, he countered. There's a difference. I opened my mouth to retort, but the truth of it settled like a stone. My hand instinctively drifted to my belly. His expression softened a fraction. I didn't mean it as an insult. You didn't have to. Kellen studied me quietly, then spoke in a voice gentler than winter had any right to allow. Mara, strength isn't measured by how many fights you win. Sometimes it's measured by how many things you protect. Something warm fluttered in my chest at Rat. I looked away before he saw too much. Before either of us could speak again, the pup whimpered. I went to him, checking his temperature, stroking his fur. Kellen watched from a few steps away, unreadable. He trusts you, I murmured. He fears me, Kellen corrected. Then why does he look at you like he's begging you not to leave? He didn't answer. Instead he crouched, resting a hand on the pup's side. The small wolf leaned into the touch, shivering once. You said he was sent to track us, I said. But he can't possibly understand the orders. He doesn't need to understand, Kellen replied. He only needs to follow his instinct. And what instinct is that? Kellen's gaze lifted to me. To return to the strongest wolf he knows. I froze. The king? No. His voice softened. You. I blinked, stunned. Me? Why? Because you didn't let him die in the snow. His hand brushed the pup's fur once more. Wolves recognize compassion, sometimes faster than humans do. Heat rose to my cheeks again. That's not. I just wanted to help. And that, Kellen said, is exactly why he chose you. The pup's tiny head rested on my knee. A tremble passed through him, and I stroked his ear lightly. When I glanced back up, Kellen was staring at me with an expression I couldn't decipher, half wonder, half dread. What? I whispered. He rose slowly, crossing to the window. His back was half lit by the fading afternoon sun. Nothing. Just. He exhaled. The king is not the only one who can sense bonds forming. Bonds? My heart thudded. Between who? He didn't answer. The silence that followed felt too loud, too fragile. Before I could push further, Kellen straightened, his posture suddenly alert. Mara, come here. Something in his tone jolted my nerves. I crossed the room. He pointed beyond the tree line. At first, I saw nothing. Then movement. A dark shape weaving between the pines. Slow. Deliberate. Too large to be a normal wolf. Too silent to be human. A shiver scraped down my spine. Is that? No, Kellen murmured. Not him, but not friendly. The shape disappeared. Kellen grabbed his coat. Get your boots. Now. Panic prickled my skin. Are we leaving? No, he said, eyes sharp. We don't run blindly. We assess. I pulled on my boots with trembling hands. Kellen moved with lethal quiet, opening the door just enough to scent the air. His nostrils flared, his jaw flexed. That's not a scout, he said. It's a hunter. A hunter for the king? No. He shut the door, bolting it. Something worse. The wind moaned across the roof, and for the first time since meeting him, I saw real tension in Kellen's face. What could be worse than a Lycan King? I whispered. Kellen turned slowly, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. A rogue, he said. A wolf who serves no pack and fears no crown. And once they catch a scent... His gaze pinned me in place. They don't stop until they've tasted blood. The pup whimpered. My heart hammered. Kellen stepped closer, voice low, protective, deadly calm. You stay behind me, no matter what happens. The world outside darkened. The hunt, it seemed, had already begun. Chapter 5, Teeth in the Dark Night, fell too fast. Shadows crawled across the cabin walls like living things, stretching long and sharp. Kellen had not moved from the door since the rogue's silhouette vanished into the tree line. His posture was rigid, a predator carved from winter and vigilance. Even the air felt thinner around him, as though the cabin itself recognized the danger approaching. I sat near the hearth with the pup asleep beside me. His breathing was steadier now, but he twitched in his dream, small whimpers escaping as though he sensed the danger too. Kellen, I whispered, how close is it? He didn't look back. Close enough that the forest has gone silent. I listened. No wind. No birds. Not even the soft cracking of ice in the branches. Just breathing. His. Mine. The pup's. A nauseating knot, twisted in my stomach. What does a rogue want with us? With you? Everything. Kellen finally turned, eyes shimmering faintly silver. A rogue's instincts are simple: feed, dominate, destroy. They don't follow kings or packs. They follow hunger. And me? My voice wavered. What hunger am I? Kellen's gaze lowered to my belly. Life. Potential. The mark of a prophecy too old to ignore. Cold washed through me. The prophecy the elders dared to trust. Does it speak about my child? Yes, he said. But not in the way they told you. My heart stumbled. Then tell me the truth, Kellen. Now, before anything else hunts us. He hesitated just long enough to hurt. Then he crossed the room and knelt beside the hearth. His voice dropped, grave and quiet. There is a legend older than the Lycan throne. It speaks of a child born of dual blood, human and wolf. A child carried under the protection of winter's shadow. A child who would undo the balance of power. Undo, I whispered. Kellen nodded. A child who could bring peace or ruin. The fire cracked loudly, as though punctuating his words. I pressed a trembling hand to my stomach. My child? Is that child? Yes. His eyes softened. Your elders weren't trying to save the pack. They were trying to control destiny. And when they couldn't, they sold it. My breath shook. Anger rose thick and sharp in my chest. They lied to me. They used me. They feared you, Kellen said quietly. And what you carry. Silence pressed between us, deep and suffocating. Then Kellen rose suddenly, head snapping toward the window. It's here. A growl low, guttural, and far too large rumbled through the forest. I leapt to my feet, heart hammering. What do? We don't run, he said. Rogues chase anything that flees. He shrugged off his coat and shirt in one smooth motion. My breath caught not from desire, though the sight of him bare in the firelight sent a flush through me but from the raw power carved into his body. Scars crossed his chest and sides, pale lines that spoke of battles survived more than one. What are you doing? I asked, voice small. Preparing, he murmured, eyes glowing brighter now. If it breaks inside, you get the pup and move into the crawl space beneath the floorboards. Don't come out unless I tell you. You expect me to hide? I expect you to survive. His gaze locked with mine, the force of it stealing my breath. I can't protect you if you die trying to protect me. The rogue growled again, closer, now so close the window rattled. Kellen moved to the center of the room, exhaling slowly. Bones cracked softly beneath his skin, reshaping. Muscles rippled as though something enormous pressed from within. I stepped back, stunned. You're shifting? Not fully, he said, voice deepening. Not yet. But enough. The air darkened around him, thick with ancient magic. His pupils narrowed. His skin shimmered. A ridge of fur climbed along his spine. He was becoming the thing I'd seen in the snow. The thing that terrified me. The thing that saved me. When he looked at me again, there was very little human left in those eyes. And yet, I felt safer than I should have. A sudden thud against the wall jolted me. Then another. The rogue tested the cabin's defenses. Kellen, I whispered. It's trying to break through. He didn't respond, didn't need to. His muscles tensed, and his body lowered into a stance so effortless it was terrifying. The rogue hit the door with a force that sent dust falling from the rafters. The cabin groaned. Get ready, Kellen growled. The hinges shrieked. I grabbed the pup, pulling him close. My heart thundered against my ribs. The door bowed inward, cracked, and then silence. Thick. Heavy. Wrong. Kellen straightened slightly, confused. That's when the window behind us exploded. Glass shattered across the room as a massive shape burst through the opening, a blur of fur, claws, and burning yellow eyes. I screamed. Kellen lunged with inhuman speed, knocking me aside just before the rogue's claws slashed through the air where I'd been standing. The rogue was enormous, twice the size of a normal Lycan, snarling, frothing, eyes wild with madness. Its fur was matted with blood, its ribs sharp beneath its hide. A creature born of hunger and violence. Kellen roared a terrifying, guttural sound that vibrated in my bones and collided with the rogue. The cabin shook under the force of their clash. Wood splintered. Furniture crashed. Kellen grappled the beast, shoving it back with strength that didn't belong to mortals. But the rogue was fast. It twisted, snapping at his throat. Kellen! Look out! He dodged, barely, teeth grazing his shoulder. Blood sprayed across the floor. The scent of it, the sight of it triggered something primal and icy inside me. Fear sharpened into something else. Determination. Fury. I grabbed the nearest thing I could reach, a broken fire iron, and stepped forward. The pup whined in terror. Mara, stay back, Kellen shouted, even as he slammed the rogue into the far wall. I won't hide while you die, I cried. The rogue lunged again, jaws wide. Kellen shifted further, bones contorting, claws ripping through his hands. His roar shook the cabin as he met the rogue head-on, forcing its jaws back. They crashed into the table, sending the map flying. Firelight flickered, casting shadows across fur and fangs. I circled around, gripping the fire iron so tightly my knuckles ached. When the rogue reared back, preparing to strike Kellen's exposed side, I acted. I swung. The iron cracked against the rogue's ribs with a sickening thud. It snarled, staggering, and turned toward me. Heat flushed through my veins, fear, mixed with a strange, overwhelming courage. But Kellen's voice ripped through the room, deep and furious. No! He launched himself at the rogue, slamming it to the ground. His claws sank deep. The beast howled. Kellen, finish it! I cried. But Kellen froze. A heavy, strange silence filled the cabin. The rogue stilled beneath him, not dead, but waiting. Kellen's grip loosened slightly. What was he doing? Kellen, I whispered. He didn't answer. His head lifted slowly, eyes not silver now, but something darker, something ancient. The rogue whimpered beneath him. Kellen, I said again, fear rising like ice in my throat. What's wrong? He looked at me, and for the first time since I met him, I didn't recognize the expression in his eyes. Not rage. Not fear. Recognition. This one, Kellen whispered, voice shaking with something raw, is not hunting you. The rogue whimpered again. It's hunting me. The truth crashed over us both like a tidal wave. The king wasn't the only one tracking us. The rogue had come for Kellen. And it wasn't alone. Chapter 6, Bloodline of the Banished. For a moment, neither Kellen nor the rogue moved. Their breath steamed in the cold air, leaking through the shattered window, mingling like smoke from two different fires, one controlled, one wild. Kellen. My voice trembled. Why would a rogue hunt you? Kellen didn't look at me. His claws were still half buried in the rogue's hide, his body shaking with barely restrained instinct. But his eyes were filled with something I had never seen on him before. Fear. Not for himself. For me. Rogues don't take orders, he said, voice low and ragged. They don't follow kings. They follow blood. The rogue's ears pinned back, a low whining sound escaping its throat. Not defiance. Appeasement. Kellen, I whispered. Does it know you? His grip tightened. Yes. The rogue whimpered louder, pressing its massive head against the floorboards, as if bowing before something sacred or something cursed. I stepped closer without meaning to, the fire iron still clutched in my shaking hand. The pup crawled to my ankle, trembling. Explain, I said. Kellen's voice cracked like frost. Some wolves weren't meant to serve under any throne. Some of us were born with bloodline markings older than kings. The rogue stirred, lifting its head toward him. Its eyes, wild, yellow, frenzied, suddenly softened into something like recognition. Like sorrow. My pulse quickened. What does that mean? Kellen finally lifted his gaze to me. It means this rogue isn't hunting for food or dominance. It's here because of me, because of what I am. The cabin's shadows deepened. The wind hissed through the broken window like a warning. Kellen. I took a careful breath. What are you? His jaw clenched. Bones cracked softly as he forced himself back toward a more human shape, muscles shrinking, fur receding, the monstrous angles of his wolf form smoothing into something carved and breathtakingly human. He rose to his feet, chest heaving, blood streaked across his arms and torso. I am the king's brother, he said quietly, but I am not merely his rival. He glanced at the rogue, whose gaze followed him with a disturbing, almost reverent obedience. I was born touched by the primal blood, Kellen continued. A lineage that predates our royal line. A lineage the king fears and tried to erase. I stared at the rogue, then at Kellen. You mean your blood can command rogues? No. Kellen shook his head. It can calm them. Cool them. Heal the madness in them. And your brother can't do that? Not even close. A deep, heavy realization settled over me. Then you're more powerful than the king. Kellen's lips twisted into something like pain. Which is precisely why he tried to kill me. The rogue whimpered again. Kellen moved toward it slowly, kneeling. He placed a hand on its head. The beast's sidder sound almost human and its body relaxed beneath his touch. It came here to find me, Kellen murmured. Not to hurt you. Then what did it want? To warn us. My heart lurched. Warn us about what? Kellen lifted his hand from the rogue's fur. Where there is one rogue, there will be more. They're gathering. Something is stirring them. Something that drives them from the forests and into the king's lands. Something? I echoed. Or someone. Kellen hesitated. The king, he whispered. He's hunting me through them. The room tilted. You mean he's driving rogues into these mountains just to flush you out? Kellen nodded once. He wants me alive long enough to take my blood, then dead. I shivered. Why would he want your blood? To cement his throne, to steal the power he was not born with. His voice darkened. To break the prophecy. The prophecy. The one tied to my unborn child. To me. Everything connected. Kellen. My voice wavered. Does the prophecy mention you? His silence was answer enough. What does it say? It says a child will be born of divided blood, he said quietly. A child who could unite rogues and wolves or destroy the fragile balance between them. And you? He looked at me, really looked at me. The firelight flickered across his eyes like the reflection of a dying star. It says the child will be protected by a shadowed wolf. A wolf born under the red moon. His voice broke. That wolf is me. The cabin seemed to exhale with us, the wind trembling through the broken window. So when the king found out about your blood, I whispered. He saw an opportunity, Kellen finished. If he kills me, the prophecy dies. If he takes my blood, he gains the power of the ancient line. Either way, he wins. And my child? Kellen's gaze softened, breaking me open. Your child is the piece he cannot control. The one he fears, the one he wants to claim or destroy. A tremor went through me so fierce I nearly dropped the fire iron. We can't stay here, I breathed. We need to run. Now, we will, Kellen said gently. But first, he turned to the rogue, who lay trembling, sides heaving. Kellen pressed his forehead to the creature's, a soft, intimate gesture that belonged to a different world. A world of wolves. The rogue stopped shaking. Its breathing evened. Then, with a low rumble, it staggered to its feet and limped toward the window. Kellen? I whispered. Where is it going? To die, he said softly. Rogues don't live long once madness takes them. The clarity won't last, but it came far enough to deliver its message. The rogue paused at the tree line, lifting its head as if listening to something we could not hear. Then it disappeared into the forest jaws. A thick silence fell. Kellen turned toward me. He was still, half-shifted eyes glowing, fangs just visible, skin flickering with magic. But the expression on his face was painfully human. Mara, he said slowly, your child is the key to a new balance. The king knows it, the rogues sense it, and the prophecy binds us both to whatever comes next. My heart pounded. Binds us? Meaning? His chest rose and fell with a breath that shook him. Meaning our fates were linked long before we met. My knees weakened. Kellen, I whispered, unsure whether to step forward or step back. He stepped forward. And then he stopped just inches from me, voice a low, trembling admission. I am the shadowed wolf the prophecy speaks of. Mara. And you? His gaze lowered to my stomach, then returned to my eyes with devastating intensity. You're Childand, you were never meant to face this alone. The fire crackled. The wind howled. And I felt it in my bones. This was no coincidence. No accident. Fate had chosen us. Whether we were ready or not. Chapter 7. The path of no return. The forest around the cabin had changed. Not in shape or colour, but in feeling. As if the trees themselves were holding their breath, listening for what moved between their shadows. The air tasted heavier, wild with anticipation and danger. Kellen stood near the broken window, staring into the swirling dark. His back rose and fell with slow, measured breaths. He looked like a man trying to stay calm. But his shadow, it looked ready to tear the world apart. "We leave at first light," he said finally. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a sentence. I wrapped my arms around myself, the cold whispering through the shattered glass, lifting goosebumps along my skin. First light? But what if the king is already? He's not here yet, Kellen said. But he will be. And when he comes, dawn won't save us. He turned then, eyes softening when they found me. The gentleness lasted only a heartbeat. "You're shaking." "I'm fine," I said, too quickly. He approached, slow and deliberate. The moment he stopped in front of me, warmth radiated off him like a living shield. "You've just learned the king wants your child. That rogue's answer to your protector. That prophecy binds us all. You can be afraid, Mara. Fear doesn't make you weak." A breath escaped me, shaky and unwilling. What if I'm not afraid for me? What if I'm afraid for him? My hand drifted to my stomach. Kellen's eyes softened more deeply than I'd seen yet. "Then you're already stronger than you know." The pup whimpered in his corner, struggling to rise. I knelt beside him. "We can't leave him," I said softly. Kellen crouched next to me. "He'll come with us. If he chooses." "Chooses? He's a baby. He's a wolf," Kellen corrected. "And wolves choose their loyalties." The pup pressed his tiny muzzle into my palm. My heart cracked open. Then he's already chosen. Something flickered across Kellen's expression, something warm, something like pride. Or maybe wonder. "So it seems." A pause. Heavy. Charged. "Mara," he said quietly, "there's something else you need to know before we leave." My breath caught. "What is it?" He looked at the floor, jaw working as if words were stones he had to crush before speaking. "The north, the place I'm taking you, it's not a sanctuary." "Then what is it?" "It's the only place the king won't follow. But that doesn't mean it's safe." My stomach twisted. Why won't he follow? Because even he fears the spirits that roam there. My pulse thudded. "Spirits, not ghosts," he said. "Old magic. Wolves who lost their bodies long ago, but not their rage." I swallowed hard. "And you think we'll be safer there?" "I know we will." He shifted closer. "Because up north, power is decided by truth, not blood. If the prophecy is real, the spirits will sense it. They will defend you. And if they don't?" I whispered. Kellen held my gaze, a fierce, unshakable promise. "Then I will." The words lodged in my throat, too intimate, too dangerous. "Kellen," I whispered. He looked away first, like he'd stepped too close to a fire he couldn't afford to feel. We should rest. But neither of us moved. Instead, we stood there closer than we had ever been, breathing the same cold air, sharing the same unspoken fear. And something else. Something magnetic. Something inevitable. I broke the moment first, stepping back to gather what little supplies I had left. A blanket, a canteen, a small hunting knife I barely knew how to use. As I worked, I felt Kellen watching me. His gaze wasn't possessive, just attentive. protective, in a way that made my heart ache. "You didn't answer my question earlier," I said, folding the blanket. "About the prophecy." His expression tightened. "Which part?" "The part about you. About us." I forced a breath. "How exactly are our fates linked?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he checked the pup's bandages, his movements uncharacteristically hesitant. "The primal bloodline, the one I carry," he said slowly. "It binds itself to what it protects. It's instinct. It's ancient. It's unavoidable. And that means—" He finally met my gaze. "It means the moment I chose to save you in the storm, I tied my life to yours." My breath hitched. "Tied, bound," he corrected softly. "If you die, I die. If your child dies, part of me dies with it." The room spun. "So when you said you were the shadowed wolf, I meant it. Your prophecy became mine the moment I heard your heart pulse in the snow." A shiver ran through me, not fear. Never fear. Something deeper. "Kellen," I whispered, stepping closer without meaning to. But the moment fractured with a sharp snap of a branch outside. Kellen stiffened. All warmth vanished from his face. He reached for the door, scenting the air through the cracks in the wood. Every muscle in his body coiled, silent and deadly. "Is it the king?" I breathed. "No." His voice dropped to a growl. Too light. Too fast. He opened the door a crack. Snow drifted in. Silence. Then a small howl. The pup bolted to his feet, tail rigid. "What is it?" I asked. Kellen's eyes narrowed. "Another pup." My heart thudded. "A scout?" "No," he said. "Too young. Too scared." He stepped outside, moving with cautious speed. I followed, clutching the blanket around me. A tiny shape stumbled from beneath a fallen pine, a second wolf pup, thinner than the one inside, shaking violently. "Kellen, this one's dying." "No," he said tightly, lifting the trembling creature into his arms. "This one's not dying." He looked toward the dark tree line, jaw locking. "It's fleeing." "Fleeing what?" I whispered. He turned back toward the cabin, eyes burning with an urgency that chilled me. "Not what, Mara?" He pushed the door open with his shoulder. "Who?" I realized then we weren't the only ones running from the king. And whatever was coming next was already chasing others. Chapter 8, echoes of the hunt. The new pup trembled violently in Kellen's arms, its breath sharp and frantic. Its fur, if it could even be called that, was patchy, thin, and cold as riverstone. The moment we stepped back into the cabin, our own injured pup hobbled toward it, whining softly. They touched noses. A whimper passed between them, low and mournful. Like grief. Like warning. "What happened to them?" I whispered. Kellen lowered the new pup onto the blanket near the hearth. Flames reflected in his eyes, turning them molten silver before fading back into their usual storm grey. "This one didn't escape an attack," he said quietly. "It escaped starvation." A chill moved through me that had nothing to do with the night air. "The rogues?" I asked. "No." He shook his head. "Rogues hunt. This—" His jaw tightened. "This is neglect." "Neglect from who?" He didn't answer at first. Instead, he crouched beside the pup, laying a hand lightly over its tiny ribs, feeling the tremors beneath its skin. Something darkened in his expression, a shadow that unsettled even the firelight. "Kellen," I pressed, "who would let pups starve?" He met my gaze. "Packs with too many mouths," he said. "Or too many enemies." My breath caught. "You think this pup came from my old pack?" He didn't deny it. The room tilted. The hearth seemed to pulse with heat. No, I whispered. My pack adored their pups, protected them. Before the famine, Kellen said gently. Before desperation, before prophecy. I sank onto the floor beside the two pups. The newer one whimpered and curled into the other, as if it had been waiting its entire life for a warm touch. My heart cracked. They're starving on purpose, I said hollowly. Sending them out. Hoping someone finds them. Oh, Kellen murmured, hoping someone doesn't. My vision blurred. Anguish clawed up my throat. This is because of me, I whispered. Because I fled. Because I didn't keep the bargain. Kellen's hand found my shoulder, steady and warm. No. This is because your pack chose a coward's path. Their choices are not your burden. But I left them, I said, voice breaking. I left the only home those pups ever knew. You saved yourself, he said firmly. And your child. And now you saved these two as well. I looked at the pups, how small they were, how frail. Not enough, I murmured. It is, he insisted. Because you choose compassion even while carrying your own fear. He shifted closer, lowering his voice. That is what the prophecy saw in you. Something inside me trembled, something vulnerable and fiercely alive. Before I could respond, a distant sound echoed outside. A howl. But not like before. This one was long, strained, ragged. A call of mourning. Or warning. Kellen was on his feet instantly. That's not a rogue, he said. That's a pack wolf. Fear shot down my spine. My pack? No. Kellen's eyes narrowed. But it knows you're here. He moved to the window, scanning the moonlit snow. His silhouette radiated strength, but also tension like a blade held back by will alone. Stay inside, he commanded. Don't move unless I tell you. I'm not hiding, I whispered. You're pregnant, Mara. You don't get to be reckless. But no. His voice was low, firm, brooking no argument. I can fight one wolf. Not you and your conscience. The words stung, but not because they were harsh. Because they were true. He opened the door and stepped outside. Snow dusted his bare skin, cold and luminous beneath the moon. He didn't bother shifting fully, he didn't need to. Power pulsed beneath his half-wolf form like a heartbeat made of lightning. The howl came again, closer. Kellen's stance changed, muscles coiling. Then a figure emerged from the tree line. My breath stopped. It was a woman. Tall, sharp-boned, wrapped in a black cloak, hair braided with silver threads. Her eyes not gold like wolves, but a dark, gleaming obsidian glittered as she approached Kellen. Kellen stiffened. You. Her lips curved. Hello, brother. My stomach plummeted. Kellen stepped back, teeth bared. You're not my sister. Blood disagrees. I said, he growled. You are not my sister. She laughed, a soft, echoing sound that made the hairs along my arms rise. She moved closer, and the air tightened, as though the forest itself recoiled from her presence. Where is she? The woman asked. My pulse thrashed. She meant me. She knew. Kellen blocked her path. Leave. Now. You really think you can protect her? The woman murmured. You can barely protect yourself. His growl vibrated the air. The woman smiled wider. Oh, Kellen. Still pretending you're the stronger one? Pretending? He spat. You sent rogues into the mountains. No. She tilted her head, eyes shimmering with cold mirth. I simply told them where you'd be. A shock slammed through me. Kellen hadn't been tracked by accident. He'd been betrayed. Kellen lunged faster than a breath, but the woman vanished, shifting into mist and reforming behind him. Shadow magic. Unsee. Forbidden. She whispered in his ear. The king wants the child. Alive. Your death is optional. A snarl ripped from his chest. He spun, but she was already gliding back into the trees, cloak fluttering like wings of darkness. Tell the girl, she called, that her time is nearly up. Then she disappeared. Silence crushed the forest. Kellen stood there trembling not from fear, but fury so raw it burned the snow beneath him. I ran outside. Kellen! I reached him, touching his arm. He didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't blink. She's alive, he murmured hollowly. I thought she died years ago. Who is she? He turned to me, eyes wild with a grief I didn't understand. Her name is Lyriel. He swallowed hard. She is born of the same primal blood as me. Then she's like you. Don't know. His voice cracked. She's what I would have become if I had chosen power instead of mercy. My heart tightened painfully. What does she want? His eyes met mine haunted. To make sure the king gets your child. The cold night swallowed my breath. And worse, Kellen whispered. She wants me. I froze. For what? To break me. His lips twisted. Or claim me. A violent shiver ran through him, and he pulled me suddenly into his arms, holding me as though the world were collapsing. Mara, he murmured against my hair, voice shaking, the king is coming. Lyriel is coming. And if they reach you? He cupped my face, forcing me to see the terror he could never hide. Then prophecy will not save us. Snow drifted around us, the forest holding its breath. Kellen, I whispered, what do we do now? His answer was soft, but steady like the first heartbeat after a near-death stillness. We run north. To light. And then, even more quietly, and whatever fate binds us, we face it together. The pups cried from inside the cabin. The trees groaned. The ground shuddered. And I felt it deep, ancient, unyielding. Fate had found us. And it was done waiting.